The vast emptiness of space stretched before the small human reconnaissance vessel. Captain Park Ji-won stood at the bridge, her eyes fixed on the massive alien mothership that loomed like a dark metallic mountain against the starfield. The Krelt invasion fleet had been advancing for weeks, consuming smaller colonies and planetary outposts with ruthless efficiency. Ji-won's team was different. They were not a massive army, but a carefully selected group of 23 specialized soldiers and technicians. Each member had been chosen not for their physical strength, but for their adaptability, intelligence, and unique skill sets. Lieutenant Kim Dong-hai, a communications expert with a background in quantum computing, sat at the main console. Sergeant Yoon Hae-sung, a tactical genius who had previously developed unconventional warfare strategies, checked the weapon systems. The Krelt had no idea what was coming. Their initial scans showed the alien fleet expecting an easy conquest. Massive troop carriers lined up, preparing to deploy thousands of soldiers onto human-controlled territories. Their communication channels were filled with dismissive chatter about the insignificant human resistance and predictions of a swift victory. Ji-won allowed herself a small smile. Underestimation would be their greatest weakness. The reconnaissance vessel moved silently, using advanced stealth technologies that made it virtually undetectable. Specialized electromagnetic shielding prevented traditional scanning methods from identifying their precise location. Every system was designed for maximum efficiency and minimal energy signature. Dong-hai's fingers danced across the holographic interface, mapping out the intricate communication networks of the alien fleet. "Captain," he said quietly, "I'm detecting multiple communication vulnerabilities. Their encryption is surprisingly primitive." Hae-sung reviewed the tactical displays, marking potential weak points in the alien defense structures. Years of studying unconventional warfare had taught him that size and technology didn't always guarantee victory. Strategy, adaptability, and psychological manipulation were far more powerful weapons. The human vessel continued its silent approach, gathering critical intelligence. Each piece of data was a potential weapon, each intercepted transmission a potential strategy. The Krelt believed they were hunting humans. In reality, they were walking into a carefully prepared trap. Ji-won remembered the briefings before this mission. Earth's military had been preparing for this moment for decades. While the Krelt saw humans as a young, inexperienced species, they failed to understand the core of human survival, the ability to adapt, to learn, and to fight with everything they had. Her team represented the best of humanity. They were not just soldiers, but scientists, programmers, strategists, and innovators. Each member carried multiple skill sets, ready to transform from one role to another in milliseconds. This flexibility would be their greatest strength against a rigid hierarchical alien military structure. The first alien scout ships began spreading out, conducting preliminary scanning operations. They moved with mechanical precision, believing their technological superiority would reveal any hidden threats. They were wrong. Dong-hai activated a series of quantum-encrypted jamming protocols. Suddenly, the alien scanners would see ghost signals, false readings that would make their navigation systems unreliable. Hae-sung prepared targeted electromagnetic pulse packages, ready to be deployed at a moment's notice. Ji-won watched the alien fleet, her expression calm and calculated. They thought this would be a simple invasion. They thought humans would be easy prey. Every movement, every decision they made was being carefully studied and catalogued. The first phase of the human counterattack was about to begin, and the Krelt had no idea what was coming. The small human vessel continued its silent approach, a predator disguised as prey, waiting for the perfect moment to strike. The alien dropships descended like metallic raindrops, filling the sky with their massive forms. Sergeant Yoon Hae-sung watched from a carefully prepared defensive position. 20 human soldiers stood ready, surrounded by rugged terrain that would become their greatest weapon. The Krelt ground forces moved with mechanical precision, expecting a quick and easy conquest. Their advanced battlesuits gleamed in the weak planetary sunlight, each soldier carrying enough firepower to destroy a small city. They believed their technology and numbers would crush any human resistance in minutes. Hae-sung's team was different. They had studied every inch of the terrain for weeks: small rocky outcroppings, hidden electromagnetic interference zones, and natural terrain features would become their strategic advantage. Each soldier carried modified equipment that could adapt to multiple combat scenarios in seconds. The first wave of Krelt soldiers landed, their massive forms crushing the local vegetation. Their communication systems buzzed with confident chatter, reporting no significant resistance. They spread out in perfect geometric formations, believing their technological superiority would guarantee victory. Lieutenant Kim Dong-hae activated the first phase of their defense. Quantum encrypted jamming signals began disrupting alien communication networks. Suddenly, their perfect formations became chaotic. Squad leaders lost contact with each other, and their advanced targeting systems became unreliable. Hae-sung's team moved like shadows. They weren't trying to match the Krelt's firepower. Instead, they used precision strikes, electromagnetic pulse grenades, and carefully planned ambush points. Each movement was calculated, each action designed to maximize confusion and minimize direct confrontation. The first Krelt casualties came not from direct combat, but from strategic disruption. Their communication networks collapsed. Their advanced battlesuits became little more than heavy metal containers. Soldiers who moments ago believed in total victory now found themselves lost and confused. A group of Krelt scouts attempted to establish a forward base. Within moments, their equipment was disabled by targeted pulse attacks. Underground sensor networks, prepared weeks in advance, tracked every alien movement. The humans knew exactly where to strike and when. Dong-hae's communication manipulation reached new levels. He began broadcasting false signals, creating the impression of massive human reinforcements in multiple directions. Krelt commanders became paralyzed with uncertainty, unable to determine the true scale of human resistance. Hae-sung moved his team like a living, breathing tactical system. They were not just soldiers, but adaptable units that could transform from direct combat to technical support in seconds. When one strategy failed, they immediately switched to another. The alien commander watched in growing horror as their invasion plan collapsed. What should have been a simple planetary conquest was turning into a nightmare of confusion and unexpected resistance. The humans were fighting not with massive firepower, but with intelligence and adaptability. Some Krelt soldiers began to retreat, their confidence shattered. Those who remained found themselves fighting an enemy that seemed to be everywhere and nowhere at the same time. Every time they believed they had the humans cornered, another unexpected attack would emerge. Specialized drones designed to look like local wildlife provided constant surveillance. Each alien movement was tracked, analyzed, and countered within seconds. The terrain itself seemed to work against the Krelt, with hidden sensor networks and carefully prepared defensive positions. By the end of the first day, the Krelt had lost over 60% of their initial ground force. Not through direct combat, but through strategic disruption and psychological warfare. The humans had transformed the battlefield into a complex, ever-changing system that their rigid military structure could not comprehend. Sergeant Hae-sung allowed himself a small smile. The real battle was just beginning, and the Krelt had no idea what was coming next. The planetary landscape, once expected to be a simple conquest, had become a nightmare for the alien invasion force. 20 human soldiers had done what thousands of Krelt troops thought impossible. They had turned an invasion into a potential defeat. Lee Soo-jin sat quietly in the communication center, her fingers dancing across quantum-encrypted interfaces. She was about to wage a war unlike any the Krelt had ever experienced, a battle fought entirely in the realm of information and psychology. The alien communication networks were complex but predictable. Years of human intelligence gathering had revealed their communication structures, hierarchical systems, and psychological vulnerabilities. Soo-jin understood that winning wasn't about destroying bodies, but breaking minds. Her first strategy involved intercepting and manipulating Krelt transmission channels. She didn't just block messages, she transformed them. Military reports became streams of confusion. Confident invasion updates were subtly altered to suggest massive human resistance and unexplained casualties. Krelt soldiers began receiving fragmented messages, suggesting their commanders were abandoning them. Strategic reports implied entire invasion squadrons were being sacrificed. Rumors of human technological superiority spread like invisible wildfire through their communication networks. The psychological manipulation went deeper. Sujin constructed elaborate communication scenarios that played on the Krelt's rigid military structure. She created false communication chains that suggested internal betrayal, strategic incompetence, and systematic failure within their own ranks. Each manipulated message was crafted with precise scientific understanding. Human psychologists and linguistic experts had studied the Krelt's communication patterns for years. They knew exactly how to plant seeds of doubt, fear, and uncertainty. Alien commanders began questioning their invasion strategy. Reports of unexplained equipment failures, mysterious human tactical movements, and increasing troop disappearances created a growing sense of paranoia. The Krelt military structure, once seen as unbreakable, started showing significant cracks. Lieutenant Kim Dong-hai supported Sujin's efforts by creating additional layers of technological disruption. Quantum encrypted signals made it impossible for Krelt technicians to determine the source of their communication problems. Every attempt to investigate only increased their confusion. The psychological warfare wasn't just about spreading fear. It was about systematically dismantling the Krelt's confidence in their own systems. Human strategists understood that a military force that no longer trusts its leadership is more dangerous than any physical weapon. Intercepted communication logs showed increasing tension within Krelt leadership. Junior officers began questioning senior commanders. Strategic discussions became heated debates about the unexpected human resistance. What was supposed to be a simple invasion was turning into a potential disaster. Sujin introduced carefully, constructed historical narratives into their communication networks, stories of human survival, tales of civilizations that had overcome seemingly impossible challenges, began circulating among Krelt troops. These narratives were designed to create a sense of existential threat. The most brilliant aspect of their psychological warfare was its subtlety. Nothing seemed overtly manipulated. Each message, each piece of information felt authentic, which made the psychological impact even more devastating. The Krelt were fighting an enemy they couldn't see or understand. Troop morale among the Krelt began to collapse. Soldiers who arrived expecting an easy conquest now found themselves in a nightmare of uncertainty. Every communication, every tactical movement became a potential trap. The humans had transformed the entire invasion into a psychological minefield. Manipulating information, Lee Sujin and her team were achieving what traditional military strategies could not. They were defeating the Krelt not through massive firepower, but by systematically breaking their will to fight. The communication center hummed with quiet intensity. Each team member worked with surgical precision, understanding that information was the most powerful weapon in their arsenal. They weren't just soldiers, they were psychological architects redesigning an entire alien military's perception of reality. As alien commanders attempted to regroup, they remained unaware that every decision, every communication was being subtly guided by a small team of human specialists. The invasion was no longer about physical conquest, but a complex dance of psychological manipulation. The real war had just begun, and the Krelt had no idea they were already losing. Lieutenant Kim Dong-hai stared at the holographic display, his fingers hovering over a series of complex quantum-encrypted interfaces. The target was the Krelt command vessel, a massive metal structure that had been considered impenetrable by every known military standard. Their plan was audacious. Using modified mining explosives and experimental quantum navigation systems, they would strike at the heart of the alien invasion force. The human team had spent months preparing for this single moment, understanding that precision was more important than brute force. The Krelt command vessel represented the central nervous system of their entire invasion fleet. Destroying it would not just be a strategic victory, but a psychological demolition of their entire military structure. Every calculation, every movement had been planned with surgical precision. Dong-hai activated the first phase of their infiltration, Quantum-entangled navigation systems allowed their small strike team to move through defensive systems that would normally detect and destroy any approaching vessel. They were essentially becoming invisible, moving through spaces that shouldn't exist. Sergeant Yoon Hae-sung led the strike team. 6 specially trained operators, each carrying multiple technological capabilities, prepared to enter the alien command vessel. They carried equipment that could transform from communication devices to combat systems in milliseconds. The first breach was silent. Specialized nano-infiltration devices created microscopic openings in the vessel's outer hull. These weren't traditional entry points, but quantum-synchronized pathways that could bypass even the most advanced detection systems. Inside the command vessel, everything looked perfect. Alien commanders continued their strategic discussions, completely unaware that human operators were already moving through their most secure systems. Each step was calculated, each movement designed to avoid detection. Hae-sung's team began systematically disrupting critical systems. They weren't just destroying equipment. They were creating cascading failures that would make recovery impossible. Communication networks collapsed, navigation systems became unreliable, and critical mission databases began to corrupt. The psychological impact was immediate. Krelt commanders suddenly found themselves unable to communicate with ground forces. Navigation systems showed impossible scenarios. Critical mission data began to disappear, replaced by fragmented, nonsensical information. Donghai's technological manipulation reached its peak. He didn't just disable systems, he made them report false information. Entire sections of the command vessel began to believe they were under attack from multiple directions, creating internal chaos and confusion. The strike lasted less than 17 minutes. When it was complete, the Krelt command vessel was not destroyed, but fundamentally broken. Its systems would take years to recover, if recovery was even possible. The invasion's central nervous system had been systematically dismantled. Krelt leadership watched in horror as their most secure systems collapsed. What had seemed like an impossible human victory was now a terrifying reality. The humans had not just resisted, they had demonstrated a level of technological sophistication that was beyond comprehension. Captain Park Ji-won monitored the operation from their reconnaissance vessel. Each moment was a testament to human adaptability, strategic thinking, and technological innovation. They weren't just defending themselves, they were sending a message to the entire universe. The most remarkable aspect of the operation was its precision. No unnecessary destruction, no wasted resources. Every action was calculated, every system targeted with surgical accuracy. The humans had transformed technological warfare into an art form. As the Krelt command vessel drifted, its systems in complete disarray, the message was clear. Humanity was not a species to be underestimated. They were adaptable, innovative, and capable of turning seemingly impossible situations into strategic victories. Hae-sung's team returned to their vessel, their mission complete. They had done what entire armies couldn't. They had broken the backbone of an alien invasion force using intelligence, precision, and unconventional thinking. The stars watched silently as the balance of power shifted. The Krelt invasion was no longer a certainty but a potential disaster. And at the center of this transformation was a small human team that had defied every expectation. The Krelt fleet hung in space like wounded animals, their once mighty invasion force now a scattered and broken collection of vessels. Captain Park Ji-won watched the holographic displays, understanding that the final moments of conflict were about to unfold. Communication intercepts revealed complete chaos within the alien command structure. Their invasion had transformed from a guaranteed victory to a catastrophic defeat. Entire squadrons were requesting immediate withdrawal, their confidence shattered by weeks of human resistance. The human team had done more than just defend. They had systematically destroyed the Krelt's belief in their own superiority. Each strategic action, each psychological manipulation had revealed humanity's true potential, a species far more dangerous than any initial assessment suggested. Krelt leadership initiated emergency communication protocols. Their messages were filled with confusion, fear, and a growing understanding that they had dramatically underestimated their human opponents. What was supposed to be a simple planetary conquest had become a nightmare of unexpected resistance. Lieutenant Kim Dong-hai monitored their communication channels. He watched as alien commanders argued, their perfect military hierarchy collapsing under the weight of continuous human strategic attacks. Every communication revealed deeper fractures in their invasion strategy. The final surrender began quietly. First, individual squadron leaders requested withdrawal. Then, entire battle groups started disengaging from their invasion positions. The Krelt were not just retreating. They were running away from a threat they could not comprehend. Sergeant Yoon Hae-sung prepared the final communication. It would be a message that would echo through alien civilizations for generations. A warning about humanity's true nature. A species that could transform certain defeat into total victory through intelligence and adaptability. The human message was simple and direct. Your invasion is over. Withdraw immediately. Any further aggressive actions will be met with total destruction. Krelt command vessels began powering down their weapon systems. Their once confident communication channels now transmitted pure fear. They had encountered a species that fought not with massive armies, but with precise, intelligent strategies that dismantled their entire military philosophy. Captain Ji-won understood the broader implications. This was more than just a defensive victory. This was a statement to the universe about humanity's potential. They were not just survivors, but strategic innovators capable of defeating technologically superior opponents. Lee Soo-jin, the communication specialist, prepared final documentation of the conflict. Every intercepted transmission, every strategic manipulation would become a historical record. Future human generations would study how 23 soldiers had defeated an entire alien invasion force. The Krelt surrender was total and complete. They were not just withdrawing. They were sending messages to other potential invaders warning them about humanity. The humans had transformed from an unknown species to a civilization that demanded respect. Quantum encrypted channels began broadcasting the surrender across multiple alien communication networks. The message was clear. Humanity was not a species to be underestimated. They were intelligent, adaptable, and capable of turning certain defeat into total victory. As the alien fleet began its withdrawal, Captain Ji-won allowed herself a moment of reflection. They had not just defended their territory, they had fundamentally changed how alien civilizations would perceive humanity in the future. The final Krelt communication was a request for no further contact. They had learned their lesson about underestimating human potential. What began as an invasion had transformed into a critical lesson about humanity's true nature. Sergeant Hae-sung's team celebrated quietly. They understood that their victory was not about destruction, but about demonstrating humanity's strategic capabilities. 23 soldiers had done what entire military forces could not. They had defeated a technologically superior invasion force. The stars watched silently as the Krelt fleet disappeared, leaving behind a clear message. Humanity was not just another species to be conquered. They were a force to be respected, feared, and never underestimated.